Joining me tonight, host of the Macquarie Weekly program across the Macquarie Media Network, Justin Smith, and host of the Evenings program on 5AA in Adelaide, Jeremy Cordeaux. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Peter.
Justin, I want to start with
Hi,
you.
Peter.
I listened to some pretty damning testimony today by a doctor, a pretty honest doctor, who admitted when he turned up to be the one and only paramedic at a festival, a drug festival, not a music festival, let's call it what it is, called Lost Paradise, the festival in New South Wales. It was a day that was hot, it was 40-odd degrees. There were 11,000 people there who'd paid a lot of money to attend, so you can only imagine what the organisers are raking in. No mobile phone coverage. He made it clear before he was engaged to be the one and only doctor at this festival. He didn't know how to intubate anyone. He had not dealt with overdoses before, but they still took him on. They were desperate. How damning is that? Surely any young person thinking about taking drugs, illegal drugs at a festival like this, now must know it's as unsafe as anywhere else.
Yeah, it's a shocker, but it doesn't come as any surprise. I mean, you look at the level that we've had deaths, not just in New South Wales, but all around the country. You look at the level of deaths that we've had, and it shouldn't come as a shock at all. And the fact that the festival, one of the festivals, I'm sure there are many more, that were unprepared to have 11,000 people there and many of them taking drugs, just does not come as a shock. I don't know what's going to come out of this coroner's inquest in New South Wales, whether they're going to suggest pill testing or flat-out legalisation or more policing or whatever the hell they're going to come up with. I really don't know. But one thing they've got to put this back on are the festival organisers for this. You cannot tell me that the people that run these festivals don't know and don't have a full understanding of the amount of drugs that are being taken and the fact that there is a drug culture at these places. It just it drives me crazy. I have believed for years that we've got to push it back on the festivals and say, look, you know what you're running here. If you can't control the drugs, this analogy has been used many times, but if you've got a barman who keeps serving alcohol to a drunk person and that drunk person falls over in the ditch and kills themselves out the front, now the bar is liable for that.
Absolutely.
But these festivals have known what the culture is like, and they just have festival after festival after festival because they clearly don't care, Peter.
And they make a lot of money, Jeremy Cordeaux. They literally make hundreds of thousands of dollars. These are just coordinated venues for people to use drugs. They're not music festivals. Let's just forget that notion, completely. Evidence was heard in the coronial inquest that people turning up to these festivals, 90% of them are estimated to be drug-using young people. Now, whether they use it for the first time or the last time, sadly, we see they could end up dying. There's no duty of care with these people. 11,000 people and one doctor. When are we going to throw the book at these guys? When are we going to deny them their permits to run these festivals? When are we going to run them out of town?
Well, the truth is we have been running a phony war against drugs for years and years and years. And who takes advantage of it? The drug dealers. Because there's millions, billions of dollars involved. Of course they'll take advantage of it. Now, these kids are too old for me to sit here and say, well, where were the parents? But way, way, way back when these kids, as I am fond of saying, as the twig is bent, so shall grow the tree, how did these kids grow up in a civilised, sensible, suburban world and take their lives, their precious lives in their hands? Some total stranger gives them a pill and they take it for granted that that pill is going to give them a high when it could give them a low, a very, very big low. I mean, where is their common sense? I mean, this is the future of our country. These are our young people. But if we want to be serious about drugs, I think, as has been said, it's an occupational health and safety thing. You can't run a business like that and have it so reckless and so disorganised and so dangerous to the general public and probably the people who are at the festival anyway. You can't do that and get away with it. There must be really big penalties to prevent that. But for the dealers, why not? Why not bite the bullet and bring in the death sentence? If you kill our children, we will have you on death row. It might be a deterrent. I mean, it'll occupy the lawyers for 6 or 7 years.
Well, I would disagree. I would disagree with you there, Jeremy, but I can understand people's frustration. Look, to be honest, I have very little sympathy for young people who take these drugs. I don't think you could be under any illusion that the stuff cooked up by bikies and sold at these festivals is safe. We're all young once. I heard the message of, don't use it. You'll get yourself into trouble loud and clear.
Yep.
I never did, and I grew up in the whole drug culture that most of these guys grow up with. But calls today, Justin, the National Drug and Alcohol Research Centre says that we should look at licensing and legalising MDMA and find some places to have a regulated market and supply the drug through this market. So rather than say redouble our efforts to stop young people using, it's like, well, the horse is bottled, let them have it anyway. I keep saying, we don't say we have murder in this country, let's give up trying to stop murder and let's allow people to kill and be killed. Because we haven't been able to stop it in all of human history. We still have our penalties, we still take it seriously. Why on earth can't we do that with drugs?
Look, I think the legalising of drugs, I just think just gives such a green light. I think you're still going to see the same amount of deaths. In fact, I would suggest that you're going to see more if you try to control it and say, look, we'll be able to control it. You're just not going to be able to do it because it's something we've tried for many years to control it and we really can't. Look, I'm with you on, I wouldn't go as far as Jeremy with the death penalty, but I'm certainly, I'll meet him 1/4 of the way and say that the penalties are nowhere near high enough for drug dealers, not drug takers. I think, we can still show some care and concern for drug takers, particularly people who are addicted. But the idea of, look, I mentioned this, Peter, I think we were talking about this about 6 weeks ago, and I mentioned to you about the case in New South Wales where a girl, 19-year-old, was found with 400 tablets on her person and she didn't even get any jail time, walked free from court without a conviction. Now, it just got a community based on it. 400 tablets. 400. It is just extraordinary. Now, she should have been serving some jail time for that because that is no deterrent at all for people who want to deal at these kind of festivals or anywhere else for that matter. Yeah,
and look, I'd even go harder now. I would slap these people with some sort of mark on their file so that everyone knows that they were drug dealers. And just like we do for someone who's been caught paedophilia or with child sexual abuse convictions, it stays with them for the rest of their life. I'm all for saying to these, not necessarily the users, but definitely the dealers, 400 tablets at a festival, you are a dealer. And you can explain that when you get to 30, 35 and you want a decent job, you can explain to your would-be employer that you were pulled up for that. Just going into that whole issue of child exploitation, really terrible statistics that were out today. The Australian Centre for Countering Child Exploitation said that 26 children have been rescued from the clutches of internet predators this year alone, and there's been 4,000 reports, Jeremy, from January through to May. 4,000 reports that have been received by the AFP and 26 children rescued literally by police.
Well, it's either something that's going on underneath their nose and they don't have the eyesight to see it, or it's on the internet, or it's in some other way being introduced and perpetrated in our society. It's totally intolerable, but again, I don't know what the penalties are. I don't know what the deterrent is. Certainly it's not sufficient. But those figures, Peter, those figures are absolutely appalling, that could possibly happen in a civilised society, and I believe it's occurring with children as young as 5. 5-year-old children are being exploited, and money has to be behind it. Surely they are perverts and whatnot, but the point is they're all driven by money.
Yeah, and this is a very good point. Sadly, Justin, of course, sometimes they procure children in order to be able to sell the imagery overseas. There's a huge market in Australia and offshore. That's the real worry, isn't it? The commercialisation of child abuse.
Oh, I think there's something particularly disgusting, and I don't believe in heaven and hell, but if I did believe in a hell, I hope there's a particular place for people who make money out of child exploitation. I mean, it is bad enough that you have these people that are born sick and are just evil people that look at this stuff, but the ones who say, oh, here's a market, and they make money out of it is just absolutely unbelievable and sickening. And when you look at the people that are actually doing this stuff, mainly the people that are seeing this material, they're all in the more affluent suburbs, actually, which is very scary. You know, there are a lot of teachers and doctors and middle-aged, sort of very ordinary white people that are doing it. This is one of the very sad bits, and there are so many of them in the country, and so many of them are doing it. I think just we need to fund the police, we need to back the police, we need to back the police with good laws and good penalties so that we can really go after them.
Yeah, look, and sadly we need to talk about it in shows like this tonight, so parents are just constantly, and grandparents and others are on guard. Justin Smith, Jeremy Cordeaux, thank you very much for your time tonight.